Hi there, I'm Marg, I'm from Cheshire's Libraries and this is a book I love. So the book I've chosen to talk about today is The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell. It was published by Scepter Books in 2014, so a good 6 years since I've read it. But the reason I've chosen it is it's one of those books that's just really stayed with me. Although I'd forgotten a bit of the detail, I remembered, as soon as I picked it back up off the shelf, I remembered how it made me feel. I remember how hooked I was, couldn't put it down at the time. And there's a lot of issues in there that you think about long after you finish the last page. I hadn't read anything else by David Mitchell before I read The Bone Clocks, but I heard him speak about this book at the Manchester Literature Festival. And I don't know about you, but once I've listened to an author read from their work and kind of breathe their life into it, I'm usually hooked. And because this is quite an unusual structure as well for this novel, it was interesting to hear how he kind of crafted it and put it together, and all the themes that he's interested in that he was bringing out in it. In terms of what type of book this is, it's been classed as fantasy. I've also read it described as a literary sci-fi adventure, which I think is actually quite a good description. It's something that really has like a mixture of genres in it. I know David Mitchell himself isn't a big fan of classifying a book as being this or that type of book, and that what he's more interested in is writing just a really good piece of literary fiction. And in my opinion, this ticks that box. Now the book is divided into 6 chapters, and each of the chapters is almost like a sort of standalone story in itself, but each chapter is interconnected. There's a thread running through the whole book in the form of one of the characters, which is our protagonist, Holly Sykes. The first chapter is set in 1984 when Holly is a 15-year-old teenager. She's run away from her family in Gravesend. And then the last chapter is actually set in the future in 2043. And by this time, Holly is a grandmother living in the west of Ireland. I really enjoyed meeting each of the characters that the 6 chapters are based around. You really feel like you get inside their heads because it's written in the first person, and the characters are very believable. Some of them you will like, some of them you really won't like. So we follow Holly's story through these 6 chapters, which each are about a decade of her life, meeting all these other people. And it becomes apparent from quite early on in the book that there is something a lot bigger going on as it erupts into her life every now and again. And basically what this is a war that's going on between 2 groups of immortal beings, groups that have renegotiated like the terms of their mortality so they don't grow old and they don't decay. And Holly becomes embroiled through no fault of her own in this at the beginning of the book. By the end of it, she becomes quite a significant and decisive weapon in this war. I think what stayed with me most about this book is perhaps the section towards the end where we're looking into the future. It's now 2043, Holly is a grandma. I find it really interesting how authors like David Mitchell envisage how the future could look, and he includes some really fascinating details about how technology might be by then as well. I've never forgotten those details. It's just really intriguing. It's kind of a bit of a political ending in some ways. It's a bit of a call to action for us as readers now, thinking about how our world could look by 2043. Anyway, I really hope that you enjoy it as much as I did if you do read it. And thank you for listening today. And I hope you'll join us again soon for some more books that I love.